Yeah. Okay, the Jentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Jentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello and welcome to the Jentry Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mason. But more importantly, we have an incredible guest. We have Mayor Jarom Wagoner. He is the current mayor of Caldwell, Idaho. And yes, that is the Caldwell, Idaho that we have already featured on the podcast. This is our first time going back to a city, and this for good reason. I'm very excited to talk to Mayor Wagoner. He's had an incredible career. So he actually is raised in Caldwell since 14 years old. I then went to college at Arizona State and then went back to Boise State to finalize his planning studies. And then he was the city planner for a very long time in Caldwell and even served on the House of Representatives in Idaho. And now he's the current mayor. But more than that, he is a husband and a father of 3 boys. Mayor Wagoner, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be on here and kind of discuss, like you mentioned, all the amazing things happening in Caldwell. It's been a long road leading here for me and for the city. I'm so excited to talk more about that and just the great things happening in Caldwell.
I'm super excited, but let's jump right into it. So, Mayor Wagoner, what is the special sauce of Caldwell? What makes it the best place to live in the United States?
That is a great question. And I would say it really is. It's the people of Caldwell. You know, as you mentioned, I grew up here in Caldwell, moved here when I was 14 years old. And the people is the bedrock of what we have done here and what we've been able to accomplish. Caldwell has really gone through, a revitalization, phoenix of sorts, rising from the ashes. When I moved to Caldwell in 1990, we're a rather small community in Idaho. We were around 20,000 people here in the city. And there was not a lot happening. And it wasn't the place that people looked to go to at the time. And even through the 90s and early 2000s. And so we were kind of the outcasts of the edge of Ada County. You had, wonderful Boise growing and then Meridian and Nampa. And Caldwell had not come to its own at the time. And so we really focused on our downtown, did some improvements, and it's been just a game changer for us and all those great things happening. But along the way, it has really, truly been the people of Caldwell. I think that's set us apart. I mean, it's just such a special community.
That's amazing. And I love to hear that. I love that it's the people that shape the community, not the city, but the actual community itself. So that is beautiful. And I know that pioneer spirit is alive and well in Caldwell. So I'm excited to learn more about Caldwell and then also about you. Tell me, what did you always know you wanted to be the mayor? Is this a long time coming? What was your childhood like and how did you get into public service?
Yeah, another great question. And this was definitely not on what I thought was my career path for my life. As I mentioned, grew up here in Caldwell, graduated from Caldwell High School, attended college at Arizona State University. Just kind of wanted to get out. I'd always lived in Idaho my entire life. Wanted to see, what is it like in other areas, other places. So went down there and studied business at Arizona State. So I attended the W.P. Carey School of Business, graduated with a degree in business from there. Worked a little bit of financial planning in Arizona and talked with my wife, and it seemed like a good time to get out of the Phoenix area, escape the heat, and come back up here to Idaho. And so moved back up here in the very early 2000s after graduating from ASU. And then kind of I was doing financial planning down there and felt like a different course was kind of in my future. And so got into land use planning and really enjoyed that. One of my favorite things is just visiting with people, trying to help them, figure out what their situation is and how we can make it better. And that's kind of what financial planning is about. And really that's what about land use planning was about. And so I just love that opportunity to kind of roll into that and started just, in the trenches, just kind of learning as I went with planning and what kind of world that is. And then, as you mentioned, I was able to attend some graduate classes at Boise State University to get a little bit of that background and, what is planning, where did it come from, learn about the history of it, the importance of it, and then just continued from there and worked my way through as a county planner. And then I went on to transportation planning and did that for several years, and then was the city planner here in Caldwell for 6 years before I was elected mayor. And so it was really fun to be a part of those projects coming to Caldwell, seeing the improvements that were coming along and all aspects, from the beginning to the end. And that's the great thing about planning is you're looking to the future. You're planning now, but you want to look and see what's your community going to be like, 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years into the future. Well, I'll be long gone by the time a lot of those plans, finish out, but we've got to start them now and get them going for that next generation. And it's been an amazing road. Didn't know it'd lead me here. As mentioned, I was in the House of Representatives here in Idaho for a little while. And that was kind of, just wanting to be involved in the community, learning more, and it just kind of rolled into place. And then we'd had a mayor 24 years, had been in office, and he was ready to retire and move on. And he'd done some amazing things and really helped set in motion the great things here in Caldwell. And then with the growth we've experienced, as I mentioned, when I moved here, there's 20,000 people. Now we're right at 80,000 people. So we've, doubled in size in the last 20 years in Caldwell. And so the growth has just been on a steady pace, and it's just growing so fast. And it seemed like a great time to have a planner at the helm, kind of understands the world of growth and development and how important it is. Sometimes it can be a mixed bag and people have concerns when you're growing, but it's a great thing for your community. And so we try to focus on that and how we can, again, keep Caldwell, even with the incredible growth that's been coming. And so just kind of led to that situation with the mayor being open, just almost 4 years ago and running for that office and just being blessed enough to be able to be elected to be in this position at this time.
That's incredible, and I'm excited to learn more. A lot of the things that you alluded to are the things that I want to know. What does the city look like in 25 years? How are you maintaining that growth? Before we even get there, what are the priorities for Caldwell right now? Have you guys gone through a strategic planning process, comprehensive plan recently or upcoming? What are the priorities?
Yeah, we've done some strategic planning recently, new comprehensive plan update. So really the main strategies here in Caldwell, the things we want to focus on is continuing to improve the lives of the residents here in Caldwell. Open space, green space is so important. So we want to provide, recreational opportunities for the citizens of Caldwell. And then another big emphasis is providing more commercial opportunities, more jobs as well, industrial, things of that nature. And so really focusing on, that's one thing that Caldwell had. We've been growing just tremendously in our downtown. Is just really the place to be. There's so much amazing things happening down there, a plaza that was built. So those people are coming, but we've really still been missing out on the commercial aspect of things. Attracting these large national retailers on the outskirts of town, things of that nature, because that helps to draw, our property tax base. It increases that. That also increases our sales tax base. As a city in Idaho, and I know across the country it's different where you're at, but in Idaho, how it's established to provide the necessary services, your police, your fire, administrative in a city is basically funded off of property tax and sales tax. And there's other avenues and revenues as well that come in that pay for, your sewer and your waters, all user fees that help pay for those. But for those, again, the safety of your community, a lot of that's based on your property tax, then also your sales tax can supplement some of that. And so we are really missing out on a lot of that sales tax because it's prorated by the state legislature and how much you receive. And so you do get a percent back for the money you generate. And we've been missing out on a lot of that. So we've been trying to, attract some of these national retailers. And we've done a great job. As you mentioned, Stephen Jenkins was on here before. He is absolutely amazing. One of the best economic development directors in the country, definitely the best in the state of Idaho. And working with him, and we've worked together for years. That's the great thing is the planner, we work together. And so as the mayor, we've just been seamlessly working together, attracting these, companies coming in. We've been able to work with Home Depot, and they open October 2nd, I believe is the day. We're super excited for that, to be able to, cut the 2x4 instead of cutting a ribbon and just welcoming everybody to come and shop there. We have the flagship store of a D&B Supply. It's kind of a farm and mercantile outlet that's up here in Idaho. And they started in Caldwell. They opened a beautiful, $150,000 facility a few years ago, and it is gorgeous. And there's several other national retailers we're working with right now. Fred Meyer recently announced Kroger Company, new, 140,000 retail store that they're going to start construction in December. So those are great things that we've been able to focus on and bring to Caldwell. That again increases your tax base by property and sales tax. We're super excited on that. And the other thing that I mentioned was really providing opportunities for our citizens to get out and recreate. Idaho is so well known for its recreation, its outdoor recreation. We have the most whitewater rivers in the country here in Idaho. And there's just so many amazing opportunities to just get out and just be out in nature. And so we're really focusing on that. The Boise River runs along the outside of Caldwell. We have Indian Creek that runs right through Caldwell to our Indian Creek Plaza. And so we're kind of focusing on those two waterways. During my hopeful next term, that's going to be kind of the focus, is what can we do to improve these? So for Indian Creek, we really want to beautify that. We want to create some sediment ponds on the outside of town as it's coming in, so we can kind of traverse the creek through there, clean out some of the sediment, the contaminants that may be in there, and then flush it back in. So you have that nice, pristine, beautiful water running through downtown. And then also on the Boise River, kind of the same thing. There's a Mason Creek that runs into the Boise River just outside of town. You can see the dirt and the sediment that it brings into the river, and it just murks it up a little bit. So we want to do the same thing with that and just beautify that. And then at the tail end of both of those is creating a white water park. So along the Boise River, we would come in. There's a diversion dam that was built, 100 years ago. It's very unsafe. Creates, these tide pools and stuff that can really affect people when they're trying to swim and recreate out there. So we want to work with the irrigation district to replace that with a more modern, safe, inflatable type diversion dam that you could utilize. And then with those, you can use them as you can surf. So you can create this kind of this pool in there where you create a surfing atmosphere. So you can go in there with kayaks, with surfboards, and do all kinds of maneuvers and things like that. And so it just draws so many people down there to come and do those things. I mean, who would think about surfing in Idaho? But we actually there's the Idaho Surfing Association, which was started by one of our captains here in our fire department at the city of Caldwell, 10 plus years ago. And so we want to bring that to Caldwell. And then we could do the same thing with Indian Creek in literally downtown Caldwell. We have a small diversion there. It's not a diversion dam, but a small elevation drop where we could come in and do something very similar, where you could literally go to the plaza, hang out, listen to some concerts, grab something at the farmer's market. And you could grab your surfboard and literally 100 feet away, jump into Indian Creek and catch a wave in downtown Caldwell. So those are two of the things we're really focusing on. We're super excited to move forward with those the next couple coming years.
Wow. Yeah, Stephen, you're right. Stephen is great, and clearly you're doing your part. So I'll start from the beginning. Home Depot, that's huge. Getting a retail like that, obviously to bring in that sales tax has to be very beneficial. And Kroger, there. Those are huge stores that truly show that growth. And then even taking a step further, doubling your size in 20 years, like, wow, that is impressive. I know it has to come with some push and pull, and we'll definitely get into that later. But I just want to continue to celebrate. Never once did I think, and I will come to Caldwell,
Yep.
I'd be surfing up there. Not once did that click in my head that would be one of the recreation activities that we'd be doing. But I'm definitely excited to come visit. That is very impressive what you guys are doing. But as I alluded to, I know all great things have, like a rub sometimes. And with growth, I've seen in different people that I've spoken to, sometimes comes, drastically increased housing prices, which can lead to displacement, or people that are tied, rightly so, to the way the community was when it was 20,000 people and now it's 80,000 people. How are you guys seeing any of those issues? And if so, how are you guys doing your best to make sure that the community is still on board with some of the
Yeah, and we have seen those issues, unfortunately, growing up in Caldwell. This was always the place people came because the land was cheaper, the housing was cheaper. And so we'd get a lot of people that maybe worked in Boise that came and lived in the Caldwell area for that. And it has changed drastically over even just the last 5 years, that how quickly housing prices have risen here in Caldwell is concerning, because we want to make sure that, our future generation can afford to live here in Caldwell. And to be honest, right now, it's very difficult with the housing prices here in Caldwell. They've increased so much over the last 4 to 5 years. And so we're looking at ways, how do we offset that? How do we still make sure that there's attainable housing here in Caldwell so that, that next generation can live here and can raise their family here? And so we wanted to see how do we do that? What do we do to make that happen? And I love relationships. I think relationships are so important and so key to the progress of your community and just us as a people. We need to be able to have relationships with people. And so I enjoy meeting with the different groups. Even if we may not see eye to eye on things, I think it's important to sit down and talk about those things. And I had the privilege actually just this week of meeting with one of the Building Contractors Association groups here in the Caldwell area. And we talked actually about what you just said, with affordability. And it's like, how do we help to make that happen in Caldwell and keep it affordable for people to be able to live here? And the things we talked about on that, house our land prices is really difficult. We've had with the influx of people coming to Idaho, a large number is people from California. And they've been able to sell their homes there for substantially more, so they can come up here and pay cash, for a home. And even if it is a $500,000 starter home, they can pay for that because they have the equity from their previous home. A new, kid out of college or whatever doesn't have that kind of equity to be able to buy a house like that. And so how do we offset that? And so talking with them, they're like, we talked about, the housing prices, and it's not them just jacking their prices up to get more of a margin. Their margins are the same. It's the cost of materials that are going up and just the cost of land. And then with that kind of goes into play is time. Time is money. So when you have a developer coming in and they want to develop, say, a 50-acre piece of property and put homes on there, depending on how long it takes and the red tape they have to get through with the city, with the county, with the state, adds cost to the final product. And so we want to see how can we cut the time to make it where we're still getting the great product at the end of the day, but we're not dragging it out for 6 months or a year where they're continuing to pay interest and inflation and all those things on what they're doing. And so if we can cut that time down, we can reduce those costs. And again, them keeping their margins the same, then at the end of the day, hopefully the end product is cheaper for the people that want to live here. And so that's just an important part of it. Again, working together, it's like, okay, what can we do as a city to make it easier? And again, it's not trying to just make it easier and easier for the developer or the builder, but when we do that, we make it easier on the city as well and what we're trying to do. If we're requiring them to go to so many hearings, that means our staff has to be there. They have to write staff reports. They have to follow up on all these things. So if we can look at more administrative, in Idaho, the great thing is we believe really strongly in property rights for people. So trying to eliminate the red tape and just make it easy as possible for the people to come in and do what they want to do. You still have to take in the concerns of the neighbors and things of that. But if you can make it easier for the people to come in and do that, you make it easier on the staff as well. It makes it quicker, makes it cheaper, and hopefully at the end of the day, getting the same great product, but at a little bit lesser price. And so those are things that we do take into consideration and want to do. We want to provide the best service. That's my goal. I was also a small business owner in between all of those things that we talked about. So I've seen what it's like on the other side. At the government, like, well, it's just one more regulation. It's just one more fee that you have to pay. But if you get that from every jurisdiction, you've got a lot of fees and a lot of red tape to get through. And so we want to make sure that we're not being that hindrance to the growth of our city. And then planning is key on that. And the city did a great job. As I mentioned, the mayor before me, 24 years. That's why it's nice to have that continuity, because then you can get projects finished. And he was able to get a lot of stuff done and finished, like our plaza downtown, Indian Creek Plaza, the Winter Wonderland. To the people that see this that aren't from Idaho, go to Google and type in Caldwell Winter Wonderland and see the amazing Christmas light display that we have downtown. It shows off the plaza as well. We have a fire-breathing dragon that comes out of the creek and breathes these huge ball of fire, and it's just so much fun. There's well over 1 million lights in downtown Caldwell. It's absolutely free to come down and see it, and we literally get people from across the country that come to just visit us for that event, and it's amazing to see. And when I had my small business, it was actually down on the plaza, and we loved it. We did a soda shop, but we sold so much hot chocolate in the wintertime. And time again, people would come in and they'd be like, I feel like I'm in a Hallmark movie. And that is one of the greatest compliments you can get as a city in the wintertime, is for that. And it really does. And so it's just been an amazing that amazing opportunity to see the growth and being prepared for it. And said it, the mayor before me did a great job. Sewer and water are so important. They did tremendous job of making sure that we had the capacity for the sewer. So when you grow that much, you've got to be able to take care of the sewer. You got to be able to provide water. And those are $100 million projects to get a sewer plant up and going and then keep it going. And so they did a great job of saving money, making sure the user fees were adequate to pay for those increases and those improvements. And just, we've had it ready to go, and we're still set for the next generation to come. So we're super excited for those things. Hurdles have been there, but I think the planning that's gone into it has helped us get through those.
Yeah, I really like that you have that planning background, and I think people look at it different ways, but it sounds like to me the ease of development and making sure that you're not hindering the developers and thus the end user, being the community member, paying a higher premium on that price. As far as any other like hindrances is it like in certain areas, it's like, we are very dense and we're landlocked, and there's not more land to go around, or do you guys have land and it's just more about getting more development into the city? What are kind of the hindrances as far as like the housing stuff?
Yeah. So we definitely have the land. So, we are still excited for people to come from, we love to meet with people across the country that are looking to relocate their business or expand it or go into different areas. We have land definitely to do that. And there's always going to be, things with roads and sewer and water providing that. But we have the land for people to come. The hindrances is just, I think a lot of it is getting the word out. Idaho, the secret of Idaho, the secret of the Treasure Valley, Boise, Caldwell is out, and people are starting to hear about it. But there's still a lot of people across the country that don't know about all the amazing things happening, here in Caldwell and here in Idaho. And I'd love the opportunity to share that. I know I was back at the U.S. Conference of Mayors a few years ago, and NPR reached out because like, hey, we've heard things about Caldwell. Would you come on our show and talk about it? And so had the opportunity to jump on their national show and do an interview and talk about Caldwell. And so those are great things that we can do to let people know, what's happening in Caldwell and the great things of relocating your businesses here and doing those things. And so it's been a kind of a whirlwind at times on that, but we are always looking at new opportunities, new growth for different sectors, different types of business. So there's some major happenings here in the Treasure Valley. Micron is a huge employer in the Boise area, and they're doing, a $15 billion project right now. It's going to attract 6,000 plus jobs. And even though that's, 20, 25 miles down the street, we're close enough where that's going to affect us as well. And so we're looking at, for ancillary businesses that need to be here close to like a semiconductor plant like that, and the people that have to work there to have homes to live in and to do those things. So, we're always looking at opportunities to grow and expand. And yeah, we definitely have the room, not as much as before. We have used up some of that, but we've got some great, industrial areas, some great commercial, and then residential as well. It's just been really booming. It's seen some different types of residential coming in as well to the city.
That's incredible, and I love that you're getting the good word out about Caldwell. Now, taking a step back for our viewers, a lot of our viewers are young people that are in school or just left school and are thinking about a career of public service. What is a mayor? If you can break that down for me, for our viewers.
Yeah, and that's a great question because it really depends too. It varies throughout the country of what a mayor really is and what their roles and responsibilities are. So in Idaho, the majority of the cities run on what's known as a strong mayor form of government. So the mayor is essentially the CEO of the city, and that's how we are here in Caldwell. So we have a 6-member city council. So those are part-time positions. So at city council meetings, they make decisions on land use cases, like if you want to do a new subdivision, if you want to annex into the city, if you want to a conditional or special use permit to do something within a certain zone of the city, they decide on those. The mayor doesn't vote on those. So the mayor runs the meetings and only votes if there's a tie. And then the city council also approves the budget every year. So the mayor proposes the budget, works very closely with the finance director, the treasurer, and all the departments, and then proposes that budget to the city council for their approval. This last Monday, actually, we just had our budget before the council for final approval for our fiscal year, which is October 1 to September 30th of the next year. So that just passed. And so that's the city council's kind of prerogatives on that. Then the mayor, over all the employees, we have 500 employees here at the city of Caldwell. Our annual budget is around $150 to $180 million total. And so the mayor is to implement that, make sure the money's being spent appropriately in that regards. And so those are kind of the day-to-day activities of the city, the functioning, and then overall the employees of the city. So kind of that CEO role is what the mayor does. I think a really big part about being mayor, whether you're in a strong mayor form of government, or if you're a city manager, the mayor's more of a part-time position. The mayor's got to be with the people. The mayor needs to be out, needs to be visiting with the community, doing those things, being at ribbon cuttings, going and visiting the schools and the kids and getting them to be able to have the chance to meet the mayor. I think that's a huge part that sometimes gets overlooked because they get so caught up in the day-to-day activities and tasks of the city that they forget about, the next generation and the generation that came before. So those are some of my favorite things. So a great example is actually this morning, I was out at, a school, entry school and a preschool, reading to the kids. And it's fantastic. And I love it because they get the chance to get so excited that the mayor is coming to visit them. And I'm blessed where I speak Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish. So the school I was at today, we have a very high Hispanic population in Caldwell. Nearly 40% of our people are Hispanic Latino. And so being able to speak Spanish is huge in this part of Idaho. And so I was able to go out, and it was a majority of the kids there speak Spanish. They speak both languages, but Spanish is almost their predominant language at home. And so I was able to talk to them in Spanish and read a book to them in Spanish. And so I think that's so important. And then not just the young, but I said like that the older generation as well. We were doing a great job on that. About a year ago, I realized like, hey, wait, we're missing a complete sector of our population, the elderly. So because a lot of them can't come out to the parks for the events we do and things of that nature. So we started going and visiting the assisted living facilities. And I go to the senior center every other month and have lunch there and take my wife. And we just get to visit with the people that are there, hear their stories, and they get to learn about me, kind of what I'm all about. And it's been amazing. I remember going to an assisted living facility and there was an elderly gentleman there and he didn't speak very well. His speech was impeded, but there was a gentleman sitting next to him and was sharing me about his story. And it turns out he was this hero from the Korean War, was shooting down planes and saving people's lives. And I mean, a true American hero. And here he was sitting in this assisted living facility in Caldwell, Idaho, and nobody knew who he was. And so getting to hear their stories and how they shaped our country has been just an amazing blessing. And I think that's a huge part of being a mayor. You need to be out there, people to see you and be part of the community so that they can get to know you and you can get to know them and see what makes your community so special.
I think that is so important, and it actually brought me back. We interviewed a mayor in the North Carolina, High Point, North Carolina, and he was saying, I feel like sometimes I'm the chief hope officer, and just like bringing hope, bringing that connection for people to believe in their leadership is so important. So I love that you're thinking about the next generation, which here at Gentry, that's what we're all about. We want to get that next generation into to public service, the civic engagement, but then also not forgetting the generation that came behind us, the people that made it so that we can sit across each other on this podcast. So I think that is incredible. On that vein of getting out in the community and bringing businesses, what are there any like big initiatives or even a small initiative that you're super excited that's coming up here pretty soon?
Yeah, so a couple, I mentioned some of them before with the Whitewater Park that we're working on. Another one is, again, this kind of goes to that outdoor recreation entertainment aspect of Caldwell, that we're looking at, bringing in a partner for an outdoor amphitheater. So this would be like a 4,500 to 5,000 seat outdoor amphitheater to bring in concerts and things of that nature. That would just be phenomenal for the community because that attracts. You get the outdoor amphitheater, it's going to attract hotels, it's going to attract restaurants, it's going to attract so many different things, people wanting to come and experience that in our Caldwell community. So we're super excited for that. Performing arts is a really big deal here in Caldwell also. And people don't realize that, but we have an amazing Caldwell Fine Arts program. They're kind of their own entity, 501c3, but they do an amazing job. And the people that lead that are just incredible people that really give back so much to the community and what they do. And so they do a great job at bringing in, really talented acts and, performances. And they do every winter, they've started doing the Nutcracker. And so it's been neat to see some of that coming to Caldwell and doing that. So really looking at what could we do to help them out. So they currently operate out of a rather old facility that doesn't have the best acoustics and things of that nature. So could we bring a performing arts facility to downtown Caldwell? And that would just, again, re-energize everything going on down here. And that synergy that could create, would bring a new hotel to downtown and just open up so many other avenues that we need here in Caldwell. And so those are the great things and initiatives that are going on. And just, again, it's about how do we make the lives of the people that live here better. And so those things just really give more opportunities for people. And everybody has different interests, right? Whether it's I want to go see the Nutcracker or I want to go see, Alan Jackson, or anything in between, or Chris Stapleton or whatever it is. And so you want to provide those different opportunities for them to go and see these different types of acts and entertainment. And so we're working really hard to provide something, a little bit of something for everyone that's out.
Man, I could see it. I see the passion that you had, the passion that Steven had. The title of Steven's episode is called We Coming, because everything is just moving up and going. And man, I'm even hearing more. Caldwell is definitely on the move. Just to take a little bit of a pivot, and I may be going off script, so I apologize, but I feel you're the right person to ask. Our latest season that we have coming up, we've really been trying to tease out the interplay between municipal and local government, and then the state government and state legislature. As somebody that's been an Idaho representative, what is the interaction like even now? What is the interaction between Caldwell and the state legislature? Maybe if you can give an example of something, maybe a bill or even a mandate or just some type of interaction. How has that been in your seat now as mayor?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to realize how important that interaction is. Sometimes cities forget about the importance to involve the state legislature and the things that are going on at the state level down at the Capitol. And we're blessed close enough, Boise's with the capital of Idaho. And so the state capital is not far from Caldwell, just a 20-mile drive down the freeway. So I think that is one of the most important things is remembering, again, the relationship with the legislature and the important things on there. And, having served in the legislature kind of helped open up my eyes quite a bit on, what's going on down there. And I think it's important for us to learn about them. Like as a city, it's important for city leaders to learn about the state legislature and learn about how they do the things they do and why they do the things they do. And then vice versa, it's so important for the state legislators to learn about a city because it is so different. Serve it in the two different capacities, how a state functions and the things that they do. And as a state legislator is 180 degrees different than what a city does. It is so different in that perspective. And so it's important for both sides to learn, okay, why did you pass that bill? Why did you think we needed that done? And not understanding it, but get in their shoes to see, okay, this is why. And then also for them to be like, okay, when I passed that bill, how did it affect the cities? What, impediments did maybe it put in that we didn't expect coming? And we've seen that, unfortunately, there's been I think, we can continue to strengthen that relationship. I still have great friends down at the legislature. The partnerships and the friendships that I made are continuing to last. And so it's just on us, as city leaders to educate them and be like, okay, I want you to understand rather than just complaining. If you just go in with a complaint, you don't have any solution, then you might as well go home and just try to think of something to solve the problem. And so I love to go, like when people come to me and they come with solutions, I love it because we can sit down and we can talk about it. And I can say, okay, just, this is why that probably wouldn't work. Or, you know what, that's a great idea. Let's talk about that more and go down that path. And so I think we need to be aware that as we do have maybe bills that are passed that really put big impediments on a city and issues, that we are ready to have solutions. And, the solution isn't always, we'll just throw it out. That's the first thing we think of. We'll just throw that bill out and let's move on. There's a reason why they proposed that bill. So you want to learn, okay, what was the reason that this legislature proposed this House bill or this Senate bill? Somebody reached out to them or whatnot that had an issue and a problem and they were trying to fix it. And maybe they fixed it the wrong way. And so we want to find out, okay, what was the problem that you were trying to fix? And just so you know, when you did that, this is the problem that it actually created. And then how do we have that what's a solution to both sides, to the problem it created for us and the problem that you were trying to fix for that citizen? And then if we can figure that out and come up with a solution together, that's going to be best for both worlds. And we deal with that, on, pretty much a yearly basis when those things are coming in. And again, it's just about educating, but it's really got to come, I think, again, from the heart. Like and I tell people this all the time, if your legislator only hears from you during session about complaints you have about bills they're proposing or voting for, then they're not going to get very far. Because think about it in your own life. If the only time you ever heard from somebody was when they wanted something from you or they wanted to complain about you, you're probably not going to be very good friends. But if you're there in the good times and the bad times and you thank them when they do legislation, things of that nature, say, hey, this was great, just so you know it helped us out in this way. You reach out to them in the off session and do those things to create those relationships. That's going to go a lot further than just reaching out once a year when you got something to complain about. So I think that's really important for the cities to learn here in Idaho. And as I travel a lot with Stephen Jenkins. We go to different places to learn about other communities, what they're doing great and how we can incorporate that here in Caldwell. And it's so funny when we talk to them, we were in Texas at a conference and we went and met with some cities while we were down there. And it's like they were complaining about a lot of the same stuff we complain about. And it's like, this isn't just Idaho, this is across the country. And so we think that it's so unique to us and our problems and whether it's the successes that we have or the issues, it's almost the same across the country. You just take out the name of this city, the name of that state, put another one in, and you have a lot of the same issues and problems on that. But again, I think it's working together, trying to understand each other and see, what's the problem they're trying to solve and how can we solve it together.
Mayor Wagoner, I'm loving this. You just exemplified everything that we're trying to tease out in the newest season. That relationship has to go both ways. It has to be nurtured. when even before the bill is even proposed, they should have or they not. I'm not gonna say should. It would be great if they had a conversation and ask you, well, what are the things you foresee, and then you have that back and forth, and then when the bill passes and then it's actually implemented, what are the things that you see? So you're always having that relationship. And as somebody that's been on the other side, state legislature is they're battling or have different things that they have to work with and then negotiate and compromise on. So if everyone understands what the other party is trying to do and is up against, then everyone can have more understanding. And I honestly think more stuff can get done. And then your second point, which is big on Gentry, and one of the reasons I talk with people all over the nation, the problems are usually pretty similar, and the things that they want are usually pretty similar. So I'm glad that you and Steve are always getting out there and sharing your story and learning from others, because I think one thing I've seen now talking to so many different people is, we all want the same things, and the challenges we face aren't all too different. So that definitely made me excited to feel like I'm on the right path of sorts. I wouldn't be doing my job. Now I have heard, now this is the second podcast in Caldwell. I've heard amazing things and I continue to learn amazing things, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, is there one challenge that if you could just snap your fingers and change that you would? And Mayor, I'm giving you unlimited budget, unlimited people to implement, unlimited whatever you need. So what would that one challenge be?
I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's an easy answer. It's misinformation.
Wow.
If I could change one thing, it'd be getting the correct information into people's hands. And there's a lot, I think, social media plays into that. And it can be really difficult because there's so many rumors that start and spread so quick, and different things that people just latch onto. It's like, well, if I heard it on Facebook, it's got to be true because 50 people on Facebook told me this, so it's got to be true. And it is so many times the furthest thing from the truth. And so that would be one thing. If I could snap that magic finger and say, okay, we're going to change this, it's just, again, trying to get the misinformation out and get the correct information into people's hands on that. And I think that, armed with the right information, armed with the truth, then we can make the best decisions on that regards. And so that not only goes for the city leaders, but it should go for the public as well at large, that they need to have the right information as they're deciding on their future leaders. But don't base it off of, what you heard here or there, but find the facts and learn and study. I was actually in a meeting just this last week with our neighboring city. We work so well together here in the Treasure Valley also. That's amazing. The different cities, the mayors, we all work really, really well together. And so, our neighboring city, we met with their mayor just recently and kind of talking about an issue that we both face and that. And it's with our West Valley Humane Society that takes care of the animals here in the Canyon County where Caldwell and Napa are at. And so we're trying to figure out, what's the best way to take care of the animals here, the animals at large, the dogs, things like that, the cat population as well. And so as we were meeting, the mayor of our neighboring city looked at me, she says, I keep hearing and seeing about that Caldwell is starting to basically put all of their dogs in these kennels and they're only feeding them once every 3 days. And they're not sheltering them, they're not taking care of them. And I just looked at her and it was the first time I'd heard that. And there's nothing further from the truth. And, we're still doing the same things we've been doing, making sure that they have the adequate care. We take them to the Humane Society and do those things. But again, it's just that misinformation that spreads and unfortunately spreads so quickly with social media these days that'd be the one thing is, how do we curtail that? We do our best to get the correct information now. But I always encourage the people to learn the facts, get out there and ask the questions. I enjoy sitting down with people, even if they disagree with me 100%. Let's sit down and talk about it and see what are the real issues and make sure that, that you have the right facts and that I have the right facts as well. And that way we can at least understand each other and hopefully respect each other's positions. So yeah, misinformation, snap that finger and get everybody the correct factual information. Do that in a heartbeat.
There it is. No, I can understand, and I hear that quite often, especially like Facebook can just be a place where a lot of information can be shared. And typically it's not the positive things that are being done, which are the multitude of positive things. It's the negative things. And quite frankly, that was one of the reasons I started doing the podcast, was to be that megaphone for people that are making a difference in their community, creating innovative solutions, or have interesting thing to say. I just didn't feel like sometimes those voices are being amplified. So that is definitely part of why I do what I do. So let's take it to the positive for my last question. In 25 years, what are the people of Caldwell going to be saying about the Caldwell community?
So hopefully they'll be just saying, just, wow, I can't believe where we're at. We were at such an amazing place 25 years ago. We're at an even better place now. And so that's the hope, is that people just continue to love the Caldwell community, continue to be proud to be from Caldwell, so that when they go out, they can, yeah, hey, where are you from? I'm Caldwell proud. And so just love to be from here. And then I just think, the opportunities are still so many opportunities here in Caldwell to grow and to do those things. And so, yeah, it's all about, it's about creating that legacy. I love leadership. I love to learn about how do you become a great leader. And there's an amazing, I'll give a shout out to the GLS Summit. It's the Global Leadership Summit that they do. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. It's outside of Chicago. And it just has all these amazing opportunities to learn how to be a great leader. And I remember learning from them last year. There was a speaker there, and he talked about, a legacy. And he talked about, his legacy that he wanted to leave when he was in junior high was, to be on the wall of fame, right? Like, he had the school record for an event he did in cross country or in track. And so he was going to be a legend because of that. And so he did. He achieved his goal. He got his name up on the wall and went on in life, was at college having a difficult time. He's like, I got to go back home, and I got to see my name on the wall to remember how great I am and the legend and the legacy that I created. And he went back home, and not only was his name not on the wall, but the school wasn't even there. They bulldozed it. The school was gone. And he kind of shared about, that he had this awakening, like, your legacy, the legend that you create isn't about those things like, holding the school record or whatever it is. It's the knowledge that you leave behind that influence the people that are there, whether it's at home with your own kids or it's in the community. And so that's the goal, is that 25 years from now, that the legacy that's left behind by me and others is the incredible, vibrant community that Caldwell continues to be, the great people in Caldwell that just continue to reach out and to help each other and to lift them up when they're downtrodden or have some difficulties going on in their lives, that we are a community. And that would be the greatest legacy that I or anybody could ever leave behind, is 25 years from now, Caldwell people are still Caldwell. They still love each other. They support each other. And there's just those great things happening and going on. So that would be, if we could have that 25 years from now in Caldwell, that I would be just happy as could be.
I love that legacy of people in Caldwell being Caldwell proud. I think that's a great vision for the future. And that's what we all want. We want the people of our community to be proud to be of our community and then keep pushing it forward. So Mayor Wagoner, on behalf of Jentry, I just want to say thank you for being here. I am super excited to continue to watch the progress and the growth in Caldwell, but I just really wanted to say thank you for your time.
Yeah. Oh, it's my pleasure. I appreciate your time as well and the opportunity to talk about Caldwell. And I look forward to the day when you make it out this way. Steven and I will make sure we get you out to some great spots and get to know all the great things here in Caldwell.
Definitely. I'm definitely going to be there. I know it's going to happen. And I'm hoping I'll be surfing when I get out there.
Me too.
Well, thank you to all the viewers. This has been the Jentry Podcast. And again, we had Mayor Wagoner, the current mayor of Caldwell, Idaho. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.